He breathes, he practices, he's sort of the embodiment of total brand, wholesome brand. So it's not a brand that is just about the clothes and the look. It's a brand about it's a way of life. And so for someone who speaks to wholesome living, his message about branding you, to me, is spoken from a point of really living your life authentically through and through, so that whatever you're presenting out is what you're presenting in. But I know I'm really, really saying a lot about him. I would like to introduce Mr. Derek Bbanga, a Genos EI practitioner, a good friend and mentor in many things, both near and afar, and the managing director of Public Image Africa. Welcome, Derek. Over to you.
Fantastic, Vicky. What an introduction. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I'm delighted to be here, excited. Let's get into it. We have an hour. So as I bring up my presentation, I have a short presentation, which I will be sharing with you. Vicky, you asked that question, how people have been, and I just wanted, in the spirit of emotional intelligence and empathy and resilience, if your head has been above water this week, just put a Y or a yes in the chat box. If your head has been above water this week, what day is it today? Wednesday already.
Wednesday.
Yes. Or a yes. And Vicky, as I'm bringing up my slides, you can let me know if there are Y's streaming in or people are saying a different story.
Let me check the chats.
Please do.
So Mildred says yes. Mildred Mugambi says yes, her head has been above the water.
Mm-hmm.
My head has been... Okay, before I talk about my head, when Jiko Mati says her head has been above the water, Matthew Mbugu says her head has been above the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody struggling just a little bit? I mean, this is the world we live in, whether it's post-pandemic or with everything that's going on. Some of us are either working from home still, or we're in a hybrid situation, or a myriad of reasons. We're trying to get back into the swing of things. It's actually nothing to be ashamed about to admit that you're struggling. I've struggled many, many weeks since our world changed with this black swan of an event. And I'm happy to admit it, just not this week.
In the spirit, yes. This week your head has been above the water.
Yes, this week I have. I've been very intentional with some of my routines and practices, which I'll talk about, and making sure that I'm prepared specifically for this evening.
Wonderful. So we have Janet, who says her head has been on and off, I think both above and below. Thanks, Janet, for sharing that. Yeah, so it does happen. I guess that's what you're trying to tell us, Derek, that yeah, sometimes it will happen, your head will be above, sometimes it will be below. The thing is to recognize it and then do something about it when you can.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Vicky, and thanks for everybody. So today we're just going to talk a little bit about, touch on a few things on how we can unleash your brand. You know, anytime I talk about this topic, I realize that there's maybe three types of people in the room. There are people to whom I may say some things, and this is like brand new information, right? Surprise, surprise. There may be people who already know what I'm going to say, and this message may be something that they perhaps need reiterated, or they need to take action. And then occasionally there may be people who might be slightly resistant to what I'm talking about. I mean, these are the facts. I do this for a living. But what I'm going to ask you to do is to keep an open mind. Not open that your brain's fall out, but an open mind to accept there may be things that sometimes, you know, a little difficult to take on board. But this is all in the spirit of helping us as we move forward through this increasingly challenging world that many of us face ourselves in, no matter what you do for work, whether you run your own company, you work for an organization, or indeed you're a young professional getting started, or you're an old head like me and looking to reinvent yourself. So that's yours truly, that handsome young man. I say that tongue in cheek, because people will ask me, Derek, well, how did you get into this business? And I always say, I remember when I was that age, which is about what, 10, 11, maybe even younger, my parents told me three things. I mean, they told me many things, but these are the three that I recall, and specifically this picture is referring to. Number one, I remember my dad would always tell me, people will always judge you by the shoes that you wear. Now, listen, I know everyone is either at home or maybe you're still in the office. I don't know. But can you take a look at the shoes that you're wearing right now? Okay. What do they say about your brand? Let me tell you something. I am in my house and I have got my shoes on. I'm not going to lift my feet and show you on. But there is something about judging other people fairly or unfairly based on what we see. And again, I'll talk a little bit about that, okay? And what do you see? You see what somebody's wearing, you look at colors, you look at a combination of those colors, and so on and so forth. That's the point I wanted to make. Secondly, I remember something that has kept me in good stead, which was managing time. And for me, ladies and gentlemen, to manage your time, there's a simple device which I think all of us as professionals, certainly on this call, should have. That device is usually one on the left or the right wrist. It is called a watch. So can the true professionals, whether your camera is on or off, and most of you have your, but if you have your watch on, raise your hand, because you are the true professional. You're the legends, as I like to call you. And for those of you who are raising your mobile device saying, Derek, squeezy tunatumia hii, I'm going to say that I'm going to affectionately call you a loser. Okay, I'm just being, I'm half joking when I say that, but I actually make a very strong case for some of these accessories, if you will, which are able to show the mark of a true brand. And a watch is one of them. Take it from me. We can have an intellectual conversation here about the value of watches, and I feel very strongly about that. And then finally, I was told, anytime you want money to transfer to your pocket, wear a jacket or wear a tie. So I've gone minus the tie, but I certainly want the jacket with all its accoutrements. And again, this is something that has borne me in good stead throughout my career, working here, working outside of this country. Again, it just speaks to people make a first impression when they see you. And again, I'll touch on this in the time that we have. So hopefully I haven't offended anyone to the point that they have logged off, but instead that they're calling other people in the house and say, come and listen to this guy. He's dropping nuggets of wisdom. As a matter of fact, Vicky, if everybody kind of feels what I'm saying, just put a Y or a yes in the chat. And this time I'll actually go into the chat to see those Y's or the yeses, just from those few things that I've said as to my, okay, thank you, Janet. Thank you, Montana. Amos Unasama. Vicky says, watch, thank you very much. We're on the same page. Hopefully nobody has dropped off. All right, guys. So here's another thing that I am passionate about. And I don't know if you guys can see this. You might not be able to hear it, but this is the beginning to any one of Marvel comic universe movies. Now, I would take an informal poll and ask who's interested in this. I'm not going to do that. I'm simply going to say, even at my age, I remember being a superhero junkie when I was young. And to this day, I cannot wait for the next iteration. And there's a superhero for every day of the week. Now, I happen to be biased towards Marvel Comic Universe, those of you in the know, versus DC, but I'll still watch any superhero. And I remember the superpower that I wanted to have, particularly when I was young, was to be invisible for all sorts of reasons, which I won't get into. But I would like to ask you, good people, and I'm going to ask profiles to help with the poll. If you could have one superpower that would help your personal brand, whatever your definition of that personal brand is, what would it be? If you could have one superpower that could help your personal brand, what superpower would it be? And I'm going to ask him to just put up the poll, and you can go in. I think there's a number of choices there that you can make. I don't know if that poll can come up. Are we good to go with that poll, guys? If not, we can move on. Rose, how are we doing with that poll? Yeah, it's coming up. If you could have one superpower. Now, for me, as I said, it would be being invisible. And being invisible for a number of different reasons. Here we go. Fantastic. To observe and to learn. To observe and to learn. That's why I would want to be invisible. I think that would help me with my superpower. I'd like to be a fly on the wall in a room with people that I admire, people whose values I feel that I can trust. Successful people in the room. What is it that they're doing that I can bring and help with my personal brand? All right, so I can see that the results coming in. All right, we have time travel, we have mind reading, shape shifting. This is interesting. Telepathy. Actually, telepathy would be a good one. I think I might take that as my second choice. All right, invisibility at 5%. All right. I can see we have about 25 people who have answered the poll. Let's try to get to at least, okay, we've passed 50%. Maybe keep it going on for another couple of seconds. We've got 29 people who have, all right. If we can get to 30, then we can close the poll, guys, and see what the results of that poll are. Okay, I think we can close it now. Okay, wonderful. So the results are, and I think here, let's see if we can share the results. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm looking at telepathy, the ability to influence and persuade. Like I said, that would have been my second choice for sure. In fact, that speaks really to the heart of a lot of content today. There's mind reading, we've got 26%, invisibility at 13, shape shifting at 6. So it's just interesting. I just wanted to take a poll based on obviously my love of the superhero genre and having superpowers. And maybe we will touch on this, some of these as I had mentioned before. But one of the things I think, to me, building the foundation, particularly for a strong personal brand, is something called that I call the cash formula. The cash formula for success. The cash formula. Now, cash is an acronym where the K stands for knowledge. Okay, and when we talk about knowledge here, obviously, we're talking about knowledge in this particular soft skill, but generally, if we wanted to expand this, we could say knowledge could be, you know, what are the new things that you set out to learn every single day? Knowledge could be, where do you get your sources of knowledge? Are you reading, for example? Are you listening to, it could be audiobooks or podcasts or things like that to make you a better individual. So for me, it's about the knowledge. It's about the knowledge, and there we go. There's your knowledge there. Particularly in this vast area of personal branding. Every day, even for someone like myself who speaks about this, I strive to, at least at the end of the day, maybe learn something new. And as I said, it could be through a podcast, listening to somebody else, listening to an audiobook, picking it up from maybe a client that I'm working with. But make sure that this knowledge is growing every day, so that I'm adding to this bank, if you will, this knowledge bank, if you will, particularly in this area, but also in other areas that I may not be familiar with. So there we go. So that is sort of like a challenge for you and lays the groundwork in our conversation today. It's about increasing your knowledge or learning something new or a new take on something or a new perspective. The second is attitude, which is the letter A. And for me, attitude is the driver, ladies and gentlemen. It is the driver. When I say the driver, all of this comes to naught if inside there isn't something that makes you want to be a better person, a better human being, a better spouse, a better boyfriend, girlfriend, co-worker, team member. This attitude, and for me, actually, that also underpins the developing of this powerful brand. And as we're talking about unleashing the brand today, it starts from within. You know, I alluded to the fact earlier that starting my day is one of the key things for me to have a successful day or successful week. And, you know, it starts with a number of things, getting up. And even though I may get up maybe on the wrong side of the bed, didn't sleep well, tough day the day before, I quickly am able to adjust my attitude through doing a few things. It could be, you know, exercising. It could be doing some meditation or some mindful practice, which we do in emotional intelligence. It could be doing my affirmations every day. It could be my goal setting, something that very quickly gives me the right attitude to talk to anyone. And, you know, whether my first meeting, my first client, or the first workshop that I do could be with anybody who might want to throw me off my game. I've already created that resilience through this attitude, okay, to be able to deal with that in a positive way. So I hope I'm sort of making sense here. In terms of what I'm speaking about. So very quickly, the S stands for skill. And without a doubt, these, I call them power skills. People call them soft skills, I call them power skills. This personal branding, it's a power skill. And it's a skill, like any skill needs to be developed. The fact that your favorite footballer, Ronaldo, Messi, whoever, can bend that ball around the wall and put it in the back of the net. Yes, they may have an innate talent, but this is something that they practice hours and hours upon. And so you have to practice these skills, okay? The skills of networking, the skills of communication, public speaking, and all the things that go into building your wonderful personal brand. And then finally, we have the H, which is habit. So that this becomes, it's almost like your DNA. It becomes something that you don't have to work so hard at. And even if you fall off the wagon a little bit, it's easy to get up. You know, for example, dressing like this for a webinar in the evening, for some people, and I've had this reaction, I do these webinars all the time, and they're like, how can you do that? You know, and believe me, I've been in the house today, actually. I've been working from home today. But to put all of this on is part of my habit of presenting myself to you, the audience, in terms of how I want you to look at my brand. It's not that difficult. And so if you want to develop this powerful, unleash this powerful personal brand, and whether it's in, and I'm using dressing as one of it, but it could be any number of things that I'm going to talk about. Practice that relentless pursuit of doing something over and over again. James Clear talks about it in his book, Atomic Habits. Really allows you to be able to then communicate well, influence an audience, dress to impress, whatever it is that you think best represents your personal brand. Okay. I'm just going to take a pause there and hope that everybody has sort of been able to take that in as we continue moving. I, of course, have one eye on the clock, so I want to make sure that we're able to cover as much material as I had prepared. Oh, I had this story that I wanted to share, the curse of Cassandra. Now, Cassandra was a beautiful woman who lived in the ancient Greek times, and as was in that era, the Greek people often communicated with the gods, okay? The gods would come down to earth. It could be Zeus, it could be any number of gods. Mercury, come down to earth. So Cassandra, whose beauty was known far and wide, attracted the attention of one of the gods, and he came down and he actually blessed Cassandra. And what he gave Cassandra was the ability to be able to foretell anybody's future. Okay, so Cassandra could walk up to any person and tell them anything that it was going to happen to them, up to and including when they would die. Now, this was not a curse. This was actually a blessing. Now, as I said, Cassandra's beauty attracted many people, and another god came down, and he also pursued Cassandra, and Cassandra rebuffed him, said no. And he decided that that gift that she had been given of being able to foretell people's future, what would happen is that, yes, you'd be able to do that, but nobody would believe her. And that is what I refer to as the curse of Cassandra. It's actually an ancient Greek story that is very well known. So imagine you're able to go up to anyone, tell them anything about their future, including the minute that they will die, but they don't believe you. And I think for a lot of us, we have a wonderful message because we work for a wonderful company. We have excellent products. We are a top entrepreneur. We've put in all this work. We have our academic qualifications. We have the technical knowledge of the aspects of our job or business. But that third leg is getting that message across to actually influence and impact our target market, customers. Maybe you're working somewhere and you're looking to get to the next level. So you have to be able to convince people to promote you, or your line manager, or whatever process is taken. That is what I call the curse of Cassandra. We have all of these wonderful things about us, but we have a hard time actually translating it. And for me, unleashing your personal brand is being able to easily influence, captivate your audience, communicate what it is so that people are able to make decisions that are in your favor, if that makes sense. In fact, this is what it might be costing us to not work on our personal brands. Did you know that a plane that happens to be flying 1 degree off course, after 60 miles, will find itself an entire mile off course? So planes use radar. They're flying in a certain direction using the radar. If that radar happens to be 1 degree off, after 60 miles, you'll be 1 mile off. Now, just multiply that, say, on a long distance flight, which is 3,000 miles. How many miles off course would you be? And again, I use this as a way to illustrate where we're trying to head in a certain direction, right? We want to achieve this. This is our targets, okay, in terms of sales. This is our professional goal in terms of achieving what we want in reaching the top of our careers. But there's that little 1 degree off course, not much, but compound it over weeks, years, decades, and how far you find yourself off course and not being able to achieve your professional goals. So I don't know if that's, to me, it seemed to me a powerful way of seeing why this is something that we should be course correcting on a daily basis and create those wonderful success habits. Help people professionally buy you guys. That's what it is. I present myself this way. I speak in a certain way. I hang out with certain people. I surround myself with the Vicky Karugas of this world because I want people to say, yeah, it's easy to make a decision. All right, to go with me, then go with the other person. So help people to professionally buy you. Now, again, what are we? Are we products? Yeah, in a way we are. We're all in sales. And the first thing that we're selling is ourselves. People have to buy you before you buy anything that comes out of my mouth or any product or service that I might have. So make it easy for people to buy you first, and then the rest, hopefully, comes easier. Okay? And when I look out and I see people who say, you know what, I'm just going to let other things speak for me. I use this clip as an illustration. This cannot be our new normal. Let me find out from you guys if are you sort of with me in terms of some of the what I've laid out in terms of setting the groundwork for why your personal brand is important. Just put a Y or a yes in the chat, just to make sure that we're on the same page. I always like to check in with you who are there at home, because obviously I can't see you all, have your cameras off. And I don't know if you're multitasking or if you're, yes, thank you, Janet, Faith, Ida, Rebecca, I can see your yeses coming in. Vicky's tuned in, of course, thank you very much. Wonderful, guys. Mildred Asante, Kevin Asante, Janet, I can see your yeses, Kipto, tuko pamoja. Wonderful. All right, guys, the most valuable real estate is not in Karen or Muthaiga or who knows where. It is this front and center of your target market's mind. This is what your boss should be thinking about in terms of who do I promote? Nani, ni wewe. Okay? This is what your clients are thinking about. Who am I going to do business with? That gentleman or that lady. Okay? How do you get a piece of that wonderful real estate, wherever it is? Well, part of it is how you present yourself to them. First impression, 100th impression. Okay? Have you ever, maybe you frequent a certain establishment, it could be a restaurant, it could be a shop, and there is somebody who has particularly good customer service. And when they're not there, you even feel like you don't want to do business or to have a meal in that restaurant because of the way that they treat you. This is the same thing in terms of why it's so important for us to work on building this image of ourselves. Okay. So this is a BLT sandwich, jumping up and down. BLT is bacon, lettuce, tomato. And I'm going to use the B for bacon to stand for believability, the L to stand for likability, and the T to stand for trust. So there we go. Believability, likability, and trust. Let me write these down on my little pad over here. I think that's part of it as well. Do people believe you when you talk to them and say, I have a wonderful product, I have a wonderful service? Or even in your personal life, you're going out on a date. Do people say, you know what? I believe you. Secondly, we live in an age where we want to do business with people that we like. It's simple. I think the days of being feared and respected and not necessarily liked are over. That's an anachronistic way of leadership. And then thirdly, do people trust you? And I have a whole sort of workshop on trust. So believability, likability, trustworthiness, the BLT of your brand, if that makes sense. Okay. Let's see here. What do we have next? Yeah. I may be making the point several ways in different ways, but I really want to reinforce this. Small things generally might not necessarily tilt the scales in your favor, but added over time, I think they do. I'm not saying that wearing a blazer with a lapel flower and a pocket handkerchief is going to make me win you over. But it is one small thing that I've added to this this bank that I keep depositing in terms of building my brand, my personal branding brand, that tilts things maybe slightly, maybe not by much. But every time I keep depositing, the things are tilted a little bit in my favor. And in a hyper-competitive world, where you're competing against the next guy for that client or the next girl for that promotion, these small things cumulatively can make the difference. And it's unfair. Unfair in the sense that, maybe there are other things that should speak for us. Like I said, academic qualifications and other things like that. And that's a whole other conversation that we can have. Sure. You know, maybe having those qualifications does mean that people believe you, like you, and trust you, or want to do business with you. But actually, the real world doesn't work that way. It's these small things that the brain makes, the 11 to 14 decisions that it makes on looking at you based on, I'm going to share some numbers with you, that actually will tilt the scales in your favor, if you understand. Okay, readers are leaders, leaders are readers. This is one of my favorite books. I would encourage all of you, you can take a screenshot of that. I'm sure some of you have read it, or maybe you've listened to the audio version. It's called Inference, The Psychology of Persuasion by Professor Robert Cialdini. Fantastic book. A lot of the ideas that I talk about come from there. And he wrote this book a number of years ago. It has been revised several times, but still rings true even today, even more so today. So pick up that book, Influence by Professor Robert Cialdini. Wonderful book. Okay. So guys, here's a simple, I guess you can call it an optical illusion. What do you see there? Do you see an old woman, or do you see a young woman? Just put in the chat. Do you see an old woman, or do you see a young woman? And I'll be curious to see what you see in there. An old woman or a young woman? What do you see? Let's go to the chat. What does the chat say? Okay, am I reading this correctly? Let me see. Let's go here. Okay, young. Old, Sola. Okay, young, and old. Eunice, good for you. Okay. Now, you know, whether you see a young woman or old woman, by the way, Eunice, you're correct. There is a young woman and an old woman. Okay, both actually. Depends on the angle, Virginia, thank you. Yes, maybe, it does depend on the angle. You know, maybe this is your perspective, right? Some people so old, some people so young, some people so but this was your perspective, your perception, right? And to me, this is about creating the perception in the minds of your target market so that they can buy into your ideas, okay? You know, the father of personal branding, Tom Peters, put it best. The most important job today is to be the head marketer for the brand called you. We are the CEOs of our own companies, and that company is called Me Inc. And it's not just your job to be the head marketer. You are the CFO. You are the CEO. You, in fact, are the chair of the board. And you have to do everything to promote, to protect, okay? To make sure that you identify what your brand is. We're going to go into that. What is it that you're good at? And how best can I serve my target market? This gentleman is called a master of wine. Okay? Did you know that there are maybe 354 masters of wine that exist today? Now, do not confuse this with your sommelier, all right? Or Somalia, depending on which part of Kenya you come from. This is not the guy in the restaurant. When you ask him, red or white, he tells you, boss, chukua red na yo nyama. This is a very specialized position. In fact, over the years, tens of thousands of people have applied to be a master of wine. Here's some salient facts. I'll put them down there. The exam rate, which you do after studying this for 2 years, has the highest failure rate in the world. It is harder to become a master of wine than it is to become a NASA scientist. Here's one of the things you have to do, for example. You do a blind test, a blind tasting. You're given a bottle of wine, you're blindfolded, you have to write a 10,000-word dissertation on that bottle of wine write their life based on a blind test. Now, if you ask the average person, average Kenyan, to describe a bottle of wine, what are the 2 words? Okay, and I know this gets a laugh when I do this in a live audience. People laugh and they know exactly what it is that you say to describe a bottle of wine. 2 words, if at all. Where does 10,000 words come from? But that's just part of what goes into being this very specialized position. By the way, there is one Kenyan who is a master of wine. What point am I making here, folks? Listen, that person, this gentleman, by the way, there are plenty of ladies who are masters of wine as well, are the best at what they're doing. They bring to the table something that nobody else does. Can you bring to the table something that no one else does? Maybe all of you are accountants. What is it that you can do in that accounting department, other than the technical aptitude and academic qualifications, that nobody else in that room full of junior or senior accountants can do? Why do people call on you? What is it that they call on you for? What have you identified that is unique about you, your backstory, your skills, your talents, that makes you the person to work with? And by the way, this will help you articulate your value if you choose to do so. What do you bring that makes you better than everybody else? And once you have identified, do you accentuate it? Do you work on it? So again, these are all questions that I am asking in terms of how can you not just be the best version of yourself, but unleash that powerful personal brand, which in my mind makes you a master of something. Okay? And by the way, a master of something because you also have a public mastery of certain skills. I have worked for years on the skills that I bring to table where I get my clients to call on me. I don't have to work that hard. Now, I may use a variety of things which we'll talk about, including social media, to attract clients. But a lot of what I bring to the table already speaks for itself. And people seek me out because of some of these things that I have worked on or that I'm able to help them achieve. I mean, you look at those companies there. Each of those companies on its own is unique and it's probably the best in the world. I may be using that a little bit loosely at what they do, certainly in relation to their competitors. What do each of those companies do? And by the way, each of those companies also has a brand story. Okay? And again, it goes back to what Tom Peters was saying. Look at yourself as an organization of one. What can you do differently than anybody else? Okay? Every interaction with you is a stairway to heaven or descending into that other place. Positive interaction, credible, consistent, authentic, trustworthy, or the opposite of that. You're inconsistent. You're inauthentic. In fact, people don't trust you. Okay. Yeah, those are the flames of that hot place. Let's see how we're doing on time. Take a time check. I think it might be time for another poll. Sorry, Vicky, did you want to say something?
No, I was just echoing. I think it might be time, yes.
Yes. Oh, I have quite a few things to cover. Okay, let me just go through these. I'm going to skip that. I have 1:15 by my clock over here. So are we're good, right, Vicky?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I have maybe about a few more minutes and then we can open this up. I know we want to keep this up. Okay, these are the numbers I wanted to share with you.
Yes.
55, 38, 7. And simply, guys, these are the numbers that I think, to me, if you want to be, where's my erasers there? Oh, okay, I can't find it. But when people are sort of judging you, particularly in their first impression, 55% is simply based on what they see. And what do you people see? See your nonverbal communication, they look at your body language, and they actually look at, maybe what you're wearing. So again, I'm not saying that this can make or break your ability to influence or impact your market, your target market, but I'm saying a lot of studies have shown that this is what people are looking at when they are deciding that they want to do business with you, and that's the brain making those decisions for them. So 55 is the visual. 38 is actually voice. Okay, when you open your mouth. Now, again, we could have that conversation. Really? Does a voice matter? Yes, it does. It makes a heck of a difference. And that's not to say that you have to sound like Morgan Freeman every time you talk, gentlemen, or, some other well-known actor or actress. But we're saying that people should hear you. Maybe you should be able to articulate what it is that you're talking about. And actually 7% is what you say or the message. All right, if you do that number, 7%. Now, again, it's not that the message is inconsequential. I mean, you can look the part, sound the part, and you open the mouth, sumu, inatoka, poison. It's actually about sending mixed messages or not sending mixed messages, okay? So, take those numbers for what they're worth. If you feel that you disagree vehemently with them, hit me up. I'll give you my contacts after this, and we can have a more in-depth conversation about why I think those numbers are important. Okay, that was just a little something about dress. I wanted to touch on, to me, I think this particular platform, particularly in this age of social media, which all of us, including myself, are using to enhance our personal brands. And for me, this is the one of choice. And in fact, I think I have a poll question for this. Have you updated, or when did you update your LinkedIn profile? Do we have that poll question right there? Guys? Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'm just going to, as that you're filling out that poll question, just mute and take a sip of some hot tea. Hold on.
Okay, so we are voting, right?
Yes, we're voting. How are we doing in the voting? All right. Ooh, a lot of people have voted. Rarely, wow. Monthly, oh my goodness. Weekly, never. All right. We can end the poll. I think the numbers speak for themselves.
I'd really like to see the poll.
You.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
That's a good statistic, I think, right there.
Yeah.
Very good statistics.
Vicky, when was the last time you updated your LinkedIn profile?
It's updated my LinkedIn profile, possibly every month. And by updated, I guess you're saying it's not the same as posting and liking and commenting. Is that updating?
Yeah. So LinkedIn.
I do very often. So if I go in there and I say something about something.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about posting. I'm talking about updating. And when I talk about updating, you could add the LinkedIn algorithm changes so often, and they add so many new features that it behooves all of us to go in there at least once a month and either add those features or update the old version of a previous feature. Do you know, for example, you can go in and you can add how your name is pronounced, for example, if you have an interesting last name like I do, okay? Or you can go in and put in all sorts of rich media. In fact, just today I saw something which, in fact, I attend a lot of LinkedIn webinars because I can't keep up with all of the new stuff that's being added. And so, and again, does it have to be monthly? Maybe not. But I would say as often as you can, go in and find out what's happening, what's new, what's happening on LinkedIn, and go in. And because particularly for me, when we were stuck at home, this is where I was getting my business from. Everything was, in fact, we're on LinkedIn Live, aren't we, Vicky? I think, right?
Yes, we are. Yes,
so there you go. In fact, let me make the case for LinkedIn. I have some graphics there that a lot of us are hiding unintentionally. Now, I get it. The TikToks there, new Twitters and whatever. That's a different conversation, which I actually have I do a session on some of those other platforms, which I may be on. I think some are more productive than others. But for the professionals in this room, nyinyi watu, this is the one, LinkedIn. Okay, and a lot of you are unintentionally hiding, certainly based on the results of that poll. Okay, and things like changing your profile picture, the background, the headline, using media, images, videos, voice, getting active, commenting, posting. Go in, familiarize yourself with all of these things. I hear somebody chuckling in the background. I honestly tell you, the ROI, I think, to me, as much as some people criticize it, they think it's cringy, it certainly has its detractions or detractors, but I think it works for most.
We can actually start mute, yeah? Or Rose, you can mute the participants.
Yes, thank you. Okay, guys, we're winding down. Hang in with me. This is your average zebra, Upper. I'm near the national park on this side. There they are, wandering around. They're just woken up in the morning. They're going out for their favorite meal. The zebra is going to start chomping on that magnificent grass. And then halfway into that meal, another predator also looking for its breakfast is going to come charging out. Okay. And for the next 15, 20 minutes, that zebra is running for its life. Okay. Now, here's something interesting. The zebra, if it gets its cousin, okay, let's say instead of this one here, it goes back to resume its meal without looking over its shoulder. It's like it has erased that entire event. It's like it never happened. Now put yourself in the hooves of the zebra. You have to run for your life at breakfast. You come back. You have to run for your life at lunchtime. You come back. You have to run for your life at dinner. Where? How long before you decide, I'm checking out of this existence? I can't live like this. So here's something. Zebras don't get ulcers. The zebra has this ultimate sort of resilience, so to speak, that allows it to go through the most traumatic of circumstances, running for its life. And I think that is an apt metaphor for what a lot of us might be going through today, the challenges of hybrid working from home, or trying to bring our businesses up to where they were before this black swan of an event, the pandemic, or dealing with any myriad of things, a difficult economy. So there's something particularly, and this is now touching on my emotional intelligence hat in terms of our personal brand, that these are the things that we need to bring to the forefront, building that resilience. And Vicky and I talk about this all the time, about how to build up resilience in these challenges, dealing with a difficult boss. Heck, even your personal life, who knows what's going on? But it's certainly something that we should be working for, or towards. All right. Okay. So now, as we come to the end of this, if you could, based on our conversation, get into a personal branding time machine and go back to your younger self, based on our conversation today. Younger self could be yesterday, it could be 5 years ago, it could be 20 years ago. What advice would you give to your younger self? And this is by way of saying, Derek, that was good. Put that in the chat if you can. I'm going to let you put it in the chat, and then I'm going to allow Vicky to maybe ask me a couple of questions, and then we'll open it up to you guys, and then hopefully we'll wrap this thing up in good time. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Derek.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about that question.
Which question?
If I was to go back on the personal branding time machine,
yes,
so many things I could do.
Okay.
People would be my biggest one. I would make friends with more people.
Yeah.
I would invest more in people.
Yeah.
But I can see we have Jason Madai. He says, for him, it would be to start early, to intentionally build his personal brand. And then Hilda says she would invest more on information. Should invest more on information. And as people are writing. I can see Peter Ndirango saying he would work on how he communicates and articulates issues.
Okay.
That's from Peter. We have
Thanks.
Jane who says she would study harder. We have Mercy who says she would work more on visibility.
Right.
I guess that LinkedIn is an easy way to start. Then we have Anne who says she would be more bold and build more networks. Yeah, I think
nice one,
bold, be bold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you were speaking, and as messages are coming in, it did occur to me that a lot of the elements that you were talking about, believability, likability, trust, and then talking about what do you want to be known for, what do you bring to the table, rested squarely on development of self-awareness, but now self-awareness, not just for self-awareness, but that's focused or channeled towards what brand am I either intentionally or unintentionally even building. So how are people perceiving me with some of the things that I'm not aware of? So I thought, what are some of the maybe 1-2 quick tips that you can give that can help us start becoming more aware of maybe certain things or cues that we are doing or letting out that are being perceived in a certain way that is not very beneficial to our brand? I hope my question is not too roundabouty.
No, that's a good question. And of course, you and I always talk about self-awareness being the gateway to emotional intelligence. So that's a good place to start, is, working on your self-awareness. I won't talk too much about that, but I think a lot of this has to do with the Johari window. There may be things about us that we don't know that other people see. I'm huge on getting feedback. Ask people. After this presentation, I'm going to hopefully get some feedback. What did I do well? What can I improve on? What can you work on? Getting that feedback in order to be able to work on those areas that you yourself cannot see, I think is a great starting point. Send an email to 3 or 5 of your top clients, or get honest feedback from 3 or 5 of the people that you work with, or, whatever your circumstances are, honest feedback. And you could do it in such a way so that it's not skewed to just, oh, we like what you do. Say, give me the 2 areas that you think I'm strong at, and the 1 area that I think I would need to work on in any aspect of your brand. That would be a good place to start for me. And of course, attend sessions like this.
Yeah, definitely give feedback. That's a scary place, huh? But I guess if you are ready for it, it's not too bad. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Feedback.
Yeah.
Fun fact, we ran a survey. I think you remember the survey we did. I think it was in 2021. And when we ran that survey, we asked people what they thought was important in terms of self-awareness. It was very interesting to note that the skill, or rather the behavior or the habit people thought was the least important was actually seeking feedback.
I remember that, Vicky. Yep.
Yeah, it was very interesting. So I guess it begs the question, maybe we do understand that self-awareness is important, but we don't think that seeking feedback as a collective is very important. Yet the Johari's window is, I think, 1 area where we can have a lot of learning.
It is sometimes difficult feedback. I think just as human beings, particularly if it is strong feedback, it's difficult to accept. We're not ready for it. It affirming something that we already know, so that naturally is resistant. So yeah,
I actually had a coach once who asked me to send a message to my close friends. Okay, she made a list, and I had to tell them that same question. The things that came back, some of them were very interesting, some of them were scary, some of them were almost hurtful, I must say. But it really makes you aware of how you're showing up. Not the way that you think you're showing up, but how you are actually showing up, how people are perceiving you. And if you're trying to grow to a certain direction, then you're aware why sometimes you're hitting a wall when it comes to certain things or certain decisions that you want made that are not being made in your favor. So I quite like that. And I like the fact that you mentioned that it's about how are we selling ourselves to what I guess is our end goal and our end vision. I wanted to ask another question. Go ahead, Derek.
No, I was just going to say, so remember when I talked about perception and reality, it's people's reality, what they see, regardless of how I think I come across. Somebody looked at me and has a particular way. Now, there are things I can do as much as I can to try and make people think that I'm a professional, top-notch communicator, certain, tilt those scales in my favor. But that person's reality is what they look at me. And so if I ask them, what do you really think of me? Then it could be the one thing that's holding me back. Yeah.
One last question. And how long does it take to develop brand intentionally now?
I can tell you that we work on this.
So if I decide, okay, now Derek, this brand is not working for me, it's not taking me anywhere, I think I need a new me. I need to break the habit of being myself.
Yeah, so people talk about reinvention. You could reinvent your brand by maybe a new career. You could reinvent yourself by adding something else to your portfolio. But this is something that you have to work on, I think, every day. It never stops. And ultimately, it's less about the destination and more about the journey. Every day, I am showing up, to use your words, in front of a particular constituency, like the group that's here. And I'd like to think that I do certain things to appear a certain way. Now, next week, you could see me in a completely different environment and maybe not presenting myself as I think I'd like to show up in front of this particular market. And so that might be a question of maybe there's a little bit of inconsistency there. That consistency is something that you wake up every day and do until it hopefully becomes a success work habit. I hope that answers that question.
Okay, I can see Hilda is saying she'd also like to hear more about reinventing oneself. So what I hear you saying, and I think it's something that we practice a lot. I know, not sometimes, I know I do it. I will be in a certain audience and I will be aware of my need. Maybe it's my need, maybe it's not everyone else's need, but my need to appear in a certain way or to talk in a certain way. And if you catch me with my friends on a Friday, you might just be very shocked at the way that I talk. I'll even give you an example. One time I'm speaking with my daughter and, we're rambling. And then her friend comes and he says, oh, hi, meet my mom. And automatically she says, put on my mom voice. And he says, there you go, mom. You see, you can't speak to my friends the same way you speak to the rest of us. So is that inconsistency not like part of our everyday requirements?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. We want you to be authentic.
Asking for a friend. Yeah.
We want you to be authentic. And obviously, if you're speaking to your fellow parents, mothers, versus speaking to a professional audience, there's certainly certain ways in how you're going to communicate or present yourself. But part of that authenticity is also being that best version of yourself under both those circumstances. I mean, I would like to think that even when I'm speaking to my friends, I am aware, consciously or subconsciously, of how I maybe use my voice, how I dress, my attitude towards difficult circumstances, driving a car and going on a road trip and we get a puncture. Do I completely lose it?
Yeah.
Versus because there are certain habits that I have already sort of learned. And by the way, people can see through this very quickly.
Yeah.
People can tell that you're not who you intend to be. Nobody's saying that you're the perfect paragon of professionalism 24/7. And what is that perfect paragon of professionalism, by the way? There was a time, Vicky, when I would only wear three-piece suits. To me, that was how I thought you needed to present yourself, in short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's certainly things that can change. I still haven't lost, I think, my professionalism, but I don't feel like the way I used to dress necessarily, and how I dress today has taken away from the fact that I am, hopefully, I'm still the professional brand that I claim to be or recently is. So, and some of these conversations could be absolutely situational. And so, Hilda, maybe that's a conversation we need to have between me and you in terms of how do you want to present yourself in front of certain audiences? What do you want to do?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think at some point, Shola John has shared on the chat, I think establishing a personal philosophy around your brand will help keep you in line every time. For instance, I add value to people. This I can do anytime, anywhere. Did you hear me?
Yes, I can. I wholeheartedly agree with that. You know, I talked about your brand.
I add value to people. Hmm? Yes. No,
I
please
agree
go
with
ahead.
John. I absolutely agree with John. And that's certainly one way that he presents himself to other people. If I have a conversation, if I'm networking, I'm looking to see how I can add value, help the other person. That's your personal philosophy, to use the words. That's certainly the way you present yourself. Somebody else might skew more towards, I want to see in a certain light, as I said, see remembered a certain way. There's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, your personal brand is about you intentionally being able, certainly to me, to achieve your own goals. And if you have decided that adding value, every interaction that you have with other persons is how you present and show yourself, what people say about you. I think you talk to John, he does this for you, whatever it is, that value that you bring, it's nugget of wisdom, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, kudos to you. That's your intentional work. You're not just leaving people to be like, okay.
So I guess what I'm hearing, the theme that's going around this conversation is that yes, circumstances will change, audiences will change, careers will change, your interests will change, but the things that the habits, the core habits, the things that you stand for, the things that you believe in. For example, like you said, it's a bad situation right now, but how do you show up to good and bad situations? What's the tone of your voice? What's the attitude? You talked about attitude to anything in life. Am I looking at this as a point of learning? Am I learning in my own self and understanding my triggers and how those triggers maybe help me be perceived in a certain way? Am I growing and seeing every opportunity as a learning opportunity for me? Am I gaining my skill? Am I building my skill level? So listening to you throughout this whole conversation, it's about really fast internalizing deeply what I guess you hold value, and then now trying then to ensure that you're every single day putting in. I like equating putting into a jar. So what are you putting into that jar that's going to keep your brand sustainable and showing up, as I said, in most places, most of the time at least, in a consistent manner? Because then you're talking about those inconsistencies that confuse people sometimes.
I'm not only adding to that jar, that bank, tipping it, but remember the scales?
Balance.
I want the scales to be unfairly tilted in my way. Why me and not the other guy?
Yeah.
Things I'm doing, it's unfair, but that's the unfair or uncommon or the advantage that I want when I interact with somebody, certainly in terms of my professional goals. Do you see what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So, and every day you're kind of tipping those scales in your favor. And you do it
every day, you're tipping those scales in your favor.
But the things that you're doing also when nobody's around. Let me tell you something. Yeah. I didn't even touch on body language. I mentioned nonverbal communication, body language, and I talk a little bit about body language. You may or may not know this, but there are certain hormones. Excuse me, sorry, I have something in my. I'm going to mention two: testosterone and cortisol. Now, did you know, Vicky? I think you may have heard me talk about this. Testosterone is the hormone which you all have as men and women, as adults, certainly, when you're confident. So I'm standing here where I am in my, my little office, standing as opposed to sitting, doing this. I could have given this webinar like this. I'm standing. Standing increases the level of testosterone. The testosterone is giving me confidence. And practically, it has lengthened my diaphragm, so my voice sounds better. Yes, I have a mic and all of that, but I'm doing everything small to make me come across in this virtual world, since you're not in front of me, to come across believable, likable, trustworthy. I'm increasing the level of testosterone. There's certain things I could have done which would increase cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Now, I'm not saying sitting is wrong, but certainly cortisol increases when you're sitting, when you are, presenting yourself in public. If I had hunched my shoulders, if I wasn't using open body language, you can see I'm using my body language. So I'm doing everything to help, number one, me. Okay? Not you guys, me.
Yes. Then
through helping me increase my testosterone, I'm helping you look at that guy and say, yeah, there's something about that guy. Because in this small screen that we have, okay, I've got my camera there, my laptop is here, my camera is there. But as you're looking at me, a little laptop or whatever,
yes,
there are two things. So you're helping yourself, then you're helping other people believe, like, and trust you. I was trying to make a point there. I think I made the point. I can't remember. Do you see what I mean?
I know you did. I see what you mean. And unfortunately, I've been, maybe fortunately, I've been in that class and I've seen you do those exercises where you say, stand up and open your arms, and just, maybe we can ask the people in this call, just wherever you are, just open your arms wide and feel the power.
As big as possible, right? Open your arms wide. Now do this for 10 seconds and you should literally feel a change in your body. And so a lot of this,
and it does work. Yes.
Yeah, it absolutely works. Yeah, at least I believe it does.
No, yeah. It really does, just for those 10 seconds. Okay.
Right.
I don't know if we have any questions from the audience. I know I have been seeing some comments coming in. If you do want to reach Derek, we've put his email on the chat. He is on LinkedIn and very active at that as Derek Bbanga. His email address is derek.bbanga@publicimageafrica.com, or you can also reach him at lulu.kiritu@publicimage.com. And there's a number there, 0702-897-002. Should you want to reach out to him, he's really, really good at putting this, what we call this thing into perspective. You should see him in the room, and when he makes you do those exercises, you really understand why they're so powerful, and why using your hands, being expressive when you're talking, and why you should never cross your leg, your feet. And I'm guilty as a woman, as a lady. I always thought it was very elegant, but after going through that class, my feet are firmly on the ground, feeling the earth, and my hands. So it's a very interesting class, and it's very, very simple things that sometimes we don't realize or don't know, talking to the point of K, knowledge, that can change the way that we are perceiving ourselves first, how we're feeling, so that we can make that great impression that we want to make to whomever, wherever, and at whatever time. If there are any more questions, please share them on the chat. I'm still looking up. Yep. I'm seeing there's someone saying, my clients are in trouble. I will be presenting when I'm standing. That's good feedback.
In fact, let me. Who asked that? Who said that? I want to talk to them directly.
Jane Wanjiko.
Jane. Jane, let me tell you something.
He messaged me directly, yes.
Unless it's the most informal of circumstances, I stand whenever there's an opportunity to stand. First of all, it does all those things that I talked about testosterone. Secondly, you become the focal point in terms of perceived leadership, in terms of confidence, charisma, just standing up to introduce yourself. You know that thing, people go around the room and they say, hello, my name is so-and-so, everybody's sitting. Just some of these things. And yeah, there's certainly, when it comes to things like body language, there's certain things that might make you feel slightly uncomfortable. Why are you standing? I don't care. Stand. I'm so and we'll do a whole session on crossing arms at some point, Vicky. Why you should never cross your arms.
We should. It's a very interesting session. Yeah. So let me thank everyone. Did you have any last remarks before we close the session, or a poll maybe as we exit?
No, I didn't have a poll. I did have a slide, but I've removed. I'm not going to bring it up again. I love quoting Barbara Walters. So Barbara Walters was an eponymous journalist. She was a journalist of note. May she rest in eternal peace. She died recently. And she was in the game for years, decades. She's interviewed kings, queens, dictators. And here's a direct quote from her. She said, "It is not too melodramatic." Now, I'm just going to pause here. Do you know the definition of the word melodramatic? Over the top, yeah. Like a Nigerian movie. You know, a Nigerian, they'll never say, can I have a cup of tea? I can't have a cup of tea. It's over the top. So Walters is saying, it is not too over the top. It's not too melodramatic to say that your destiny, and by the way, destiny is where you end up. All of us are going to shake off this mortal coil, in the words of Shakespeare, and go 6 feet under. None of us. We're all marching to an inevitable end. Yes. So the entire quote, it is not too melodramatic to say that your destiny lies on your brand and image. And that's a Barbara Walters quote. I love it. And I'm going to leave it with you guys. Take it away. Your destiny, where you end up, what will be written on your gravestone?
Great question. What will be written on your gravestone? It is not too over the top. Over the top sounds
too over the top.
That's palatable.
No.
There's never enough time to go through discussions such as this, but I mean, we could go on and on and on. And these short sessions, these short webinars are really designed to be short clips tapping into experts. As we have a promise, I guess, even as facilitators, as trainers, to equip others where we can with little tools and tips, and maybe give them new knowledge or refresh them in maybe knowledge that they had that maybe they've forgotten, or even make them mentors of others as we go in our pursuit of trying to change culture, change mindsets. So these webinars are really designed to speak to the person who is thirsty for cash, thirsty for knowledge, great relationships and company that will help you keep the mental attitude you need. Skills, what skills do I need? Like now, Jen is going to be standing up. She's going to be practicing how to stand up. And then what habits can we deliver, or can we practice so that we can deliver? And I'm really, really eternally, as always, grateful to you, Derek, for coming through and sharing in your wisdom, as always, deep wisdom for many years. And I told you guys it would be wholesome. It wasn't about just the shoe, but he didn't mention the shoe and made me look at mine.
At the beginning. You got to make people go, "Hey, what is this guy talking about?"
Yeah, it's deeper than that. And I mean, if you were a particular shoe, then perhaps it's time to be self-aware. What is it saying about you? What is the feedback you need to get to realize perhaps you need to change your shoe? Or maybe you like sneakers like I do. Maybe it's the type of sneaker you need to change.
Yeah.
Something else. Yeah. That's
nothing wrong with
another edge, you know, when guys see you with what did you used to call them? Those buttered butter. I can't remember what you used to call them. And not Converse. Converse is
Butter
a
bullets. Butter bullets. Is that what they're called?
I think they were butter bullets, yeah. And I think they were like the colors of the Kenyan flag. We really loved them then. And sandaks and all that.
Yes.
Yeah. All I remember growing up is the fact that if you left the house with sandaks, you would be beaten ile kichapo ya the sentence. That was the only rule. Please don't leave with sandaks. That was it. Yeah. Wear something. Yeah. So thank you so much, Derek, for joining us. I can see it's now 7:51, and thank you so much for taking the time, developing the material, being patient with our listeners, engaging them. I know they're still there. At some point we're at 70. Now I can see we're dropping off at about 47. But we are always so grateful, and thank you for joining in the Profiles brand promise of molding cultures a day, a person at a time. And to all the people on this call, you have Derek's contacts. They are on the chat. And if you did not get them, you can always reach out to us. As I said, you can find him on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and you can also find, are you on Facebook? I've never seen you on Facebook.
My company's on Facebook, yeah. Public Image.
So Public Image is on Facebook. And you can also find him on Twitter. If you want a recording of this, once we finish the session, all the attendees will get a recording link sent to them. It's available for some time. I think it does expire after some time. So please listen in. And again, all the contact details will also be shared with you at that email. So without further ado, let me bid everyone farewell and wish you all a lovely evening. And I do hope to see you the next time. And as you leave, just say one word, whatever you've left here with. I can see Grace is saying she's left here feeling elevated. There's someone saying it's very informative. I'm very grateful for the session and the thank you, Derek. Thank you, Derek. So if you can give us one word, I'm feeling empowered. That's Jason Madai. That's Anne saying thank you, Derek and Vicky. I'm feeling refreshed. That's Lishan. So just give us your last comments as we then wind up and say ciao, ciao. As Hilda says, let's do this again soon. We will keep doing this again every time. Thank you so much, and kwaheri, bye-bye from wherever you are, and from us to you. God bless you and good evening. Bye. Ciao.
Good night. See you at the top.
See you at the top.